Cheap Store back course to talk about some Final Fantasy VII, and the initial plan, obviously, with this video was supposed to be us kind of like breaking down this Type A game show presentation, but that kind of came and went, and there wasn't a whole lot from it. There's also like a London panel Q&A thing that happened somewhat recently as well. There's some stuff to talk about from this shit, but it's just not quite what we thought. To mention, when it comes to the Type A game show, there wasn't actual translations with it. There wasn't any sort of subtitles or like a live translator like there was with Tokyo Game Show. So there's no way I could have watched it and broke it down anyways, other than like the gameplay footage just kind of talking about what's happening, maybe, but I'm not going to know what they're saying. Obviously, when there's like a game event coming up, I try to avoid spoilers, but I was periodically checking Twitter last night just to kind of see what people were talking about. And the feed wasn't full of like all the new info like there usually is when there's some like sort of big revelation, some big game event or whatever. I mentioned that on Twitter. I was like, was there not anything shown at the event? Because the feed's not full of a bunch of like new information. People said that it was kind of underwhelming, which is weird because it was a 50-minute event. Like, how do you not have a bunch of new stuff from that? The gist I got from the event was that there was like some Titan footage, some Chocobo racing footage. I think they show off maybe some Tifa gameplay. And then I think they went in a little bit on the like being able to level up and progress summons. But we already knew this was a thing. Like, I don't remember what exactly the interview was, but if you follow this channel, we had talked about it previously. They had told us at some point in an interview that you can do like mini games or something to like progress the summons, because you couldn't level the summons up at all when it come to Remake, right? They were already just max level. They're only one level materia, but now you can actually power up the summons essentially. Something cool. I like that we can actually level up the summons. That's one of my complaints from Remake, was that you couldn't do that whenever you could level summon materia in the original game. So it was weird to not have that in Remake. And if they showed that off during the Type A game show, that is cool. But again, it's not new information. We already knew this. And I try to cover new information every time I can when I do a video. There might have been other stuff from that event. Like, I seen Genki share a tweet about like Toriyama saying that there's going to be a new story in Casa del Sol that did not exist in the original FF7, which inherently is cool, but at the same time completely obvious, right? Because there was no story. You go to Casa del Sol and you can literally just walk right out the front door and go to Mount Corel, and that's it, right? You can talk to Hojo on the beach. There's optional shit there, but there's not an actual story thing, just like there isn't for like Calm in the original FF7 and plenty of other locations. Casa del Sol is like many locations in OG FF7 that are just places you kind of pass through, right? But it's obvious that when it comes to like the remake project, they're going to give it a story segment, so it's not really news. It seems like a lot of the more interesting information came from that London Q&A, and even that had some old information. Like, they talked about the side quests and stuff having two different versions depending on whether or not Red 13 has the Red 13 name or the Nanaki name, and everybody was like freaking out and excited about that. But again, if you follow this channel, we talked about that literally months ago. I don't remember again exactly the interview, but we've known about this for a long, long time. It's not new information. Everybody needs to be watching the channel, boy. We stay up to date. This is old information. One of the more interesting information that came out from this, though, is they said that Gongaga is going to be an integral part of the story, which is not really surprising in its own way. It's nice to know that. It was a complete optional location, the original FF7, up to a certain point where after Temple of the Ancients, you're kind of forced to go there, obviously. But besides that, it's completely optional. So it's not a surprise. And it's Zack's hometown, so like they're obviously going to make it an important location when it comes to Rebirth. I'm very curious what the story's going to be, though. Because you can go there, and I think if you have Tifa and Aerith in your party, that's when you get like the real good like backstory for like Aerith and Zack and shit, and meeting Zack's parents and all that stuff. So I'm wondering what exactly they're going to do there, especially if Zack's alive, right? If that is, you know, that is true. Like, was Zack potentially being alive and like Gongaga being there and his parents? Like, there's a lot of possibilities, man. Also, with it now being like an integral part of the story, I've talked a lot on this channel about Cloud finding out the truth in this game. Like, how do you go to Gongaga and have Zack's parents there talking about the character of Zack, Aerith knowing Zack, Tifa knowing Zack, and Cloud not remembering, but him knowing Zack as well? Like, how do you not find out the truth, right? Like, I just feel like that's going to happen in this game at some point, especially if we're forced to go to Gongaga and there's going to be a story there. Of course, we've already had Cloud saying Zack's name in, you know, the first trailer we ever got for Rebirth, which is still a point that I think is very, very important that not enough people put emphasis on. Because if he's saying Zack's name, is it not confirmation that he remembers him in this game? The kind of big thing from this event was them confirming that Fort Condor is a location of the game, which itself, again, is not really new information, not really surprised with the Game Informer coverage that we looked at like somewhat recently when they did like the cover story. There was a screenshot where in the background, like a giant bird that you could see that only could be Fort Condor. Like, what else would it really be, right? For like a long time now, with the people that got to like play the game, got to play the demo, we're seeing like a tower in the distance on like an island that could potentially be Fort Condor. The only thing we didn't know is that we're going to get to it in this game, right? We pretty much had confirmation that Fort Condor was a location. It's just a matter of whether we're going to go to it in Rebirth, and we have confirmation of that now. One thing I'm not sure of is if we have any information on the location itself, as in like, what are we doing there? Because there's just a mini game you did over and over up until like a certain part of the story where you go there for huge material. Again, like a lot of locations in FF7, it was completely optional. You did not have to go there until one particular part in the story, right? So I'm wondering what we're going to do there, because we already have a Fort Condor minigame that is significantly better than the original. I do I'm a sort of a defender of the original Fort Condor minigame. I loved it as a kid. I don't like it now as an adult to do a playthrough. If I'm trying to like 100% the game and do all the Fort Condor missions, all the backtracking you got to do, the minigame itself isn't that fun to me now. But as a kid, I fucking love that minigame. I don't know why. I just want to base it off of OG FF7. There could still be like a huge materia story there. There's the talk of that like weapon that we've seen where Tifa's fallen and Cloud lets out the iconic Tifa scream. That like big orb in his the thing's chest is potentially huge materia, and then we know there's supposed to be huge materia, at least based on the original FF7 in Fort Condor. So maybe we do that still. Maybe we do still get Phoenix there now that we have confirmation that Fort Condor is going to be there. We talked about that in the past, but when people seen Phoenix in like the trailers, they were like, Fort Condor confirmed. But it's like, so far we've not gotten any summons like we did in the original FF7, right? So there's no guarantee that we're getting Phoenix at Fort Condor, but with Fort Condor being a location that we're going to in Rebirth, maybe they do keep that one like the OG. I don't know. And for better or worse, I think that's kind of it, my dudes. There's probably some other small talking points, maybe like combat-related stuff. Maybe there's some new attacks that were shown off. I know there was like Titan gameplay or whatever with like the Type A game show, but I think that's kind of it. And I know some people are excited for that because they don't want shit spoiled, and I don't necessarily want things spoiled either, but it's also kind of underwhelming to be looking towards a game event that has a big like hour-long panel, and then we don't really get anything from it. I think they're kind of holding off until obviously January 31st, the anniversary, to maybe announce or reveal the demo release date or something along those lines, or some other big information. Maybe that is true, but at this point I'm just kind of like whatever. Just waiting on the demo, waiting on that final trailer. I was kind of underwhelmed, to be honest. It's just kind of crazy to have like, you know, multiple game events or something here recently. The London Q&A, the Type A game show, not really get a whole lot from both of those events. We get some stuff, which is cool, but just not really a whole lot. It's not the biggest deal ever. We're like almost exactly a month to the day until the game releases, right? A few more days, it's exactly a month. I think we're just kind of getting restless now, and we already know a lot about the game. There's also a fuck ton about Rebirth that we just don't know anything about. We also have the NDA that's going to probably drop at some point for these people that got to play like 4 hours of the game. That's going to be like an influx of information at some point, right? So we got a lot coming up eventually. It's just a matter of when. This is pretty much the video. I just want to cover this, get this out there really quick for you guys. Today is the Royal Rumble. Your boy's a wrestling fan. I want to get drunk as fuck and watch big, meaty men slapping meat. Yeah. If there's anything else out there that's worth talking about, we'll definitely discuss it in a video for tomorrow. Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @DaveYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more. And nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.